smooch. If you don't mind, Frank, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Tim, also known as the pro wrestler Azrael, and if I'm here, who's flying the plane?
And how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. Looking forward to this.
Yay. That's wonderful. Who is your first favorite pro wrestler?
That asking the hard questions. I would say growing up, my first favorite pro wrestler, I was really into Jeff Hardy, growing up, but I would say if I had to say my current favorite pro wrestler, it's kind of a toss up between Bray Wyatt's The Fiend and Danhausen.
I think she agrees with you. Yeah. I I that when the theme was happening was actually when I first started getting into wrestling.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I was scrolling through, and it was like right when Bliss joined them in the Firefly Funhouse.
Mhm.
And I'm scrolling TikTok, I see her interaction with Nikki, and I'm like, what's this? Multiple years later, here we are. All mistakes are agreed upon and were probably a good idea. What what was the moment that got you into pro wrestling? Your story was
So
excellent.
that's an excellent question. So it's really weird, but I've always growing up loved pro wrestling. As a kid, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, but um it was funny because like I didn't know that there was wrestling schools and all that. Like growing up, I thought, oh, you had to be, they just pick you randomly. And then as I grew up, I kind of went away from pro wrestling a little bit. Got into theater in college, and I really love the acting aspect of it. And then I would say about a few years back, hold on, there's my dog. He decided he wanted to be a part of this. He started jumping up. This is Benji.
Nice to meet you, Angie.
But yeah, no. So I got into theater, and then I discovered a school called Knox Pro. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I didn't know that, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I joined, and here I am today doing pro wrestling.
What's your favorite finisher move?
My favorite finisher move. Okay. So I, it was tough because like I've noticed a lot of big guys always sticking to power moves. So, one day I was like trying to figure out what would be best for me. And I remember seeing a pro wrestler named Abyss do this one swinging move. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And at the time there was another guy that was training with me. His name is Toa Leona, and he was like, "Yeah, no, that move could be great for you, but you got to make sure you could do it with everyone, not just the small guys. You got to do it with the big guys too." So he was like, "Here, we'll run through it." Did it a couple of times with him. He's like, "Oh no, you carried me, you got me." And Toa's a big dude. He's like about like 350 pounds, and he was like, "Oh, if you could do it to me, you could do it to anyone." So Black Hole Slam is definitely my favorite finisher. But if I could do a finisher to a smaller guy, it would definitely be like Kenny Omega's One Wing Angel. That is
Wow.
like
What has been your favorite memory and training so far?
my favorite memory in training. That's tough because it's like I've had so many. I think my favorite memory has to be looking back was I think my first real debut match. This was a while back. We were in like Huntington Park at a place called Huntington Park, California, in a place called Leonardo's. And they were like, "Hey, so we're gonna do a multi-man battle royal." And the person that was kind of running the multi-man battle royal or the booker, the was like, "Hey, his name is Sefa. He's also known as Parisi." And he was like, "Hey, so we're gonna do this. Tim, you're the last entrant. You're gonna win." And I was like, wait, what? On my debut, he's like, yeah, no, we're gonna present you as this monster character. This is when I first debuted Azrael, and he was like, you're going over. You're gonna win. And he was like, do you have a finisher or anything? And at the time, I was like really brand new. So I think I was training for like maybe 3 months and I really didn't have a finisher. I was like, he goes, well, we're going to do the earthquake finish, basically prance around, jump. You're going to land on me. You're going to pin me. So I was like, okay, cool. I think I could do that. He goes, no, you better do that. It's going to make you look cool. And so it came out, backed everyone, threw people over. It was me and him in the middle of the ring. He was like, okay, you're gonna pick me up, power bomb me, or not power bomb me, power slam me. Go do your finish. Did it. Standing ovation from the crowd. I was like, wow, this is that was like the big wow moment for me. Like, oh, this is really happening. This is awesome. This is cool. I'm doing it. So I would have to say that's my favorite memory.
So I have a weird question. What do you think of that little monkey punch?
Why is this even the first question you thought to ask?
Because I love him. And I want
I
to go
think he's
save him.
awesome.
Would you come save him with me?
Switch, no, this would not go well. You are made of plush.
I want to bring him home and hug him. He could carry
You
me
are
around.
fluff.
I will replace the orangutan.
No, I think they're awesome. I love it. This is like amazing. I think he's cool. I like his t-shirt. Hold on, let me see if I could look a little bit closer. Oh no, it's a sweater vest. That's awesome.
Technically, I have a shirt and a sweater vest.
Ah, still, it looks dashing on you.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah.
What's your, if you had to pick from your matches so far, like, if you were to, like, show somebody, like, here is the reel of my, my best matches so far, which ones would you pick?
If I had to show a real, they kind of vary because I mean, so I've had multiple characters, well, two different characters. So my first character is Azrael. That's the current one that I'm doing. And I had another character, which was dancing pimp gimmick, close to like Godfather. And it's weird because I've had great matches with both characters, but if I had to show Azrael, definitely would be my current stuff. I think with Rodeo Pro Wrestling, which is happening in Bakersfield, we I kind of got rejuvenated because there was a moment where I felt like I was in a rut with wrestling, and it's just the rut kind of happens. I know that like I felt like I'm not showcasing what I'm capable of. I felt comfortable, and I was like, no, I need to like showcase this is me. And I would say my best rivalry matches, I think, kind of showcased that. It was me and another wrestler named Showdown. And he was like, no, I know what you're capable of. Just go all out, go all out. So I would say more of my recent stuff because I felt more comfortable with the character. I felt like this is how I wanted to display the character versus someone telling me, okay, we're doing this with your character and trying to make it work. And it just felt like it wasn't working.
Ah. Have you, I know this may also sound like a little bit of an off the wall question, but have you met any pro wrestling legends so far?
Yeah, actually, I've met a few. So I would say I don't know if you happen to know. So I've met quite a few. I was trained under pro wrestling legend Rikishi. He was my main trainer. With him, I got to meet different legends like, well, I call Miro or Rusev a legend in my book because I was like, I remember watching him as a kid, like growing up. I was like, oh man, this guy's cool. He's a big dude. He could move. Um, I've also met the Tongan Kid. Let's see, who else have I met? No, not Bobby the Brain. What's his name? Greg the Hammer Valentine. I've got to meet Big Show. That was pretty cool, Paul White. But I would say my most favorite interaction has to be with I want to say Lisa Marie or Ivory. So I met her at a convention while I was with Rikishi because I was basically working as his assistant that day. And I got to meet her and we were talking and she was like, "Oh my God, you're a pro wrestler, you're one of his students." And it was such a great interaction. I was like, "Okay, yeah, no, this is cool that like you get to pick their brains." Like I was Because with wrestling, I like to believe that even though I may be a guy or a male, that you should look at both sides of wrestling, like look at wrestling as a whole, because you can learn something from the women and men of wrestling that have made this such a great entertainment aspect. Because I remember looking at Ivory, I was like, oh, is she really crazy and all that? And no, she's just a really great actress, portraying her character. So talking to her about that character creation and picking her brain, like, how did you come up with this? It was like, you, the creativity aspect is wonderful, but I would say definitely, you have to just really love what you're doing.
Kishi, is he the one that's related to Roman?
Yes,
Nothing.
actually.
I
Maybe
love
Yes,
so.
Roman.
he's related to Roman. He's related to The Rock.
Wow.
His sons are currently in WWE, so the Usos are his sons, and then his other
Wow.
son, which is Solo Sikoa.
Oh, wow. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a
You're
whole family tree.
surprised?
Yeah.
There's a whole family tree.
Isn't Kolomalu with them too, the football player?
I think so. I want to believe that.
Okay, me too.
We are all agreeing.
Yeah.
I I kind of think you end up kind of accidentally answering this question earlier, but I'm gonna end up just saying it anyways to cover our bases. What led to the choice with your face paint?
So when it comes to the face paint, actually another person asked me about that. Originally, I was wearing a mask and it was like one of those Halloween cloth masks and it was a skull. And I was like, okay, let me do this. Tried wrestling in it. When you start sweating, it just like suffocates. So I was like, oh man, this isn't working. So I remember I forgot who I was talking to. I want to say probably Doom. He's another wrestler that came up with training with me. And he was like, well, I don't know. What should we do? Because wrestling in a mask is cool and all, but like, you have to learn how to breathe. So I was like, I'm getting tired of this. I'm gonna move to face paint. And I was like, well, I already have a skull, so I might as well just, lean into it, do another. So I started doing the skull face paint. Originally I was inspired by Ghost because I noticed he does face paint on his prosthetics. And I was like, I kind of like that look. Let me try and like, making it my own because I noticed like each of the band, well, the band goes, see the lead singer, he changes it up like with his character. So I was like, okay, maybe if I try something different, I'll like how it looks. And then recently I kind of leaned more into the clown and I was like, well, I say that I like clowns. I wasn't like into the colorful clowns. I was kind of into the black and white. So a lot of people are like, oh, you're copying Terrifier. And I'm like, no. It was more so like I think it's called the Perrier, and I was like with theater that I like that character because it was the everyday clown, or that's the face paint was like just a normal person, and so I kind of integrated that like even though my characters were made face paint, it's just trying to be normal, trying to be that everyday person, reliable. And, since we're playing with this, is he crazy? Is he just possessed or something? So I kind of like that, like playing with people a little bit that you can't tell.
To less like Doink the Clown and more like a period. Yeah, I can't really say he's so she had to help me there.
Yeah. So, that was a big inspiration. So I started watching his matches and Doink is finding out there was different people playing Doink. But Matt Bourne was definitely the best heel version of Doink, I would say, in my opinion.
As I said, oh, they're going for a clown. There's I think there's still Doinks ending up on the indie scene still.
Yeah, no, I think so. So it's just I like to believe it as a mantle of like, okay, I'm done. Your turn. You could take it on and continue the character because the character is great. Like a lot of people don't like realize that that's such a great character. and that it came from the golden age of wrestling, as they call it. So it's like the Hulk Hogan era, and that character still being, positively great on the wrestling scene. That like, if they were to tell me, "Hey Tim, you got hired in WWE, you're gonna be the new Doink," I would definitely do it in a heartbeat.
So like how Spider-Man has a multiverse, there's a Doinkverse, lol.
Exactly. I definitely could see that.
How, how did you meet? I'm gonna say team, you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, of the Dark New Age.
Oh, so Dark Knight Age. Okay, so me, PJ, and Soro, we came from the same school. Originally, we came up at the same time, so we all joined at the same time, and we are training real hard. And so we were like, "Oh, we got to do a faction. We got to do something together," because like we were day oneers. So we were like, we got together. We were like, we clicked. We had fun. We were always talking about wrestling, hanging out, and we're like, "Oh, we got to do something with this." And so when when the school decided, hey, we're going to recreate the purge, me, Soro, and PJ were like, oh, this is our chance. All three of us could get in. And they were like, okay, so PJ, Tim, you're gonna be part of the purge. Soro at the time was Suburban Shinobi. That was his gimmick or character at the time. And they're like, hey, so you don't fit this image. We're gonna just have you do your own thing. And we're like, oh man, okay, cool. We still hung out. We're still cool, but we're like disappointed because we really wanted him in the group. And then after, I would say more recently, we're like, hey, we could do this together. Like, we're not bound to be, we could do whatever we want. So we're like, hey, why don't we actually try and bring this group into the indies and see where we go with it? Let's have fun with it. Let's do our thing. And PJ was like, okay, well, how do we get this together? How do we form this? And I was like, well, you're the leader. I'm the muscle. He's the wild card. And she was like, that's a lot like the Shield. And I was like, yeah, but that's what makes it amazing is that like it kind of took that seriousness and that like, hey, we're going to be serious about ourselves, but we could still have, some comedy aspects, social aspects. We could do whatever because even though it's called Dark New Age, the name of it was DNA. And we were like, this is in our DNA. This is us. And that's what makes the Dark New Age such a great aspect is we're showcasing the best of us.
What is your favorite move so far?
My favorite move. I would say depending, if you ask the people who take it, I think they like don't like my spinning heel kick. So I I remember I was telling Showdown because he was like, "Oh, I could take it, I could take it." I'm like, "Hey, you got to be careful, because when I throw it, you gotta like just block your face. I'm gonna aim for your chest, but some people have told me somehow, I don't hit their chest. I accidentally bop them in the head." And he was like, "Oh, don't worry, don't worry." And so when I did it with him, he was like, "Oh, dude, I didn't even notice how quick you moved because by the time I got my hand up, you already hit my hand." Like I didn't even know that like you could move that quick. So the spinning heel kick is definitely one of my favorite moves. Even though I'm a big guy, it's usually reserved for the cruiserweights. So I would have to say that's my favorite move.
When you were mentioning the Hurge, did you mean Hurge as in the movie or a wrestling
Oh,
faction?
so the Purge was a wrestling faction that was inspired by the movie. So it was an old group from the school that like they had originally created, I would say, like way before I got there. And then when we got there, they wanted to bring it back because they noticed that we had a lot of gothic, dark characters. And they're like, hey, this would work for you guys, because it's a legacy group. And then you get that like, okay, this is the new blood. This is the new age. And so that kind of worked for a bit. For some reason, it kind of like just dissolved. I don't know why. They were like, hey, so we're going to separate you guys. So they had PJ do her own thing. And then they had me just reinvent my character. So that's where the Godfather-y kind of character came in. They're like, hey, so we feel like this isn't working. What do you want to do? And I was like, oh, I mean, they're like, how do you feel about wearing a fedora? I was like, okay, I'm going to be the Godfather now. make my own version of the Godfather, and it got over. It was just more of a comedy character, I would say.
I know you had mentioned the Fiend before, but because the bad thing with how my brain works, I almost put like this is its own file, this is its own file, but what was the Fiend like your main favorite when it came to Bray, or was it like, ooh, I like this, I also like this?
Oh, okay. No, that's totally fine. I love this. So I would say looking at Bray, I have a weird appreciation. And I say weird in the sense that like I do see that like the way his mind works and pieces his creativity, it was just amazing. It was just, it's hard because like how do you explain the movie Monster and apply it to wrestling, which has logic? And like there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser. It's kind of like so I appreciated Bray for that because he had immense creativity, especially when he was Eater of Worlds, the Swamp character, and then even Husky Harris. You see this like evolution where it's like, okay, this is how he starts, and then you see the creative side of him start coming out, and then like you revamp the character. And I feel like instead of saying, oh, I'm going to be someone different, he was like, okay, this is the next evolution of my character. And that's why I would say like Bray Wyatt and then The Fiend, the Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt worked because you had that like silly aspect and then this more serious evil side, you know, and it was wonderful to me. It was just like, oh my God, he's extremely creative. And I know some people didn't like it because the way that WWE kind of handled the character is like we can't have him unstoppable. And it's like, no, that's what the Fiend should have been is this unstoppable monster. Like who's going to beat him? And you feel that level of restriction because the character really didn't need um the belts or need to be a main champion. It was just there's this evil menacing presence within the WWE universe. And that like who's going to stand up to it? And if they would have just let it naturally play out, I think it would have worked.
I definitely agree.
But yeah, no,
But
I love the addition of Alexa Bliss to it. I felt like, oh, we're expanding the universe. We're seeing, the creative side because I mean, she went in, and I think that's great when you find someone that's like, hey, let's all go in together on this.
because for me, that was like the Funhouse was the like intro point for me for wrestling in general. Because before that it was like I knew that one like Vince meme of like of him yelling. I knew John Cena dun 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 dun. I knew this is where the Rock came from. But what led to, as you mentioned before, you had a mask. I'm not very good at explaining, but I saw you in certain pictures. You were still wearing it. So what led to your choice to use it? If that's the right way to frame a sentence.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question. So like currently, so I had like an entrance gear, which was that mask that you've seen me wrestle in. Um, I think it just kind of like I was like, okay, honor the previous iteration of my character, which had that cloth mask, and then like remove it to reveal the face paint. Like a lot of it was psychological, like because people would be like, oh, okay, he's wearing a mask. And then once you remove it, it's like, oh, there's something underneath. Oh, what the heck? There's artwork. Like, okay, the intimidation side. So it's like, oh, okay. I would say that definitely worked. So like currently it's kind of like, okay, this is the old and this is underneath is the new. So that revealing of the new. So like my face paint always changes. Like I try drawing different things. So it's just to have fun. So,
What do you think of the Wyatt Six?
oh, I love them. I love that Bo is definitely trying, like the way that he did it. I would say a lot of people, okay, so this is just me. Because I've talked to people and they're like, oh, why isn't it supernatural, this and that? I'm like, I kind of like the way that Bo did it, where it's more psychological than supernatural, because it's kind of like his way of honoring his brother, going through the process of grief and loss because, Bray was taken away from us too soon, I believe. Like that hit me because I didn't even want to believe that he passed away. And like, I remember like, no, it has to be fake, it has to be fake. And then all these people came out and I remember that day, it just kind of like messed me up. Like I remember I was telling one of my wrestling buddies, like, nah, it has to be fake, because you don't want to believe that this person passed on. And I could only imagine Bo and I could only imagine his family. And, that him honoring his brother the way that he did, that like, okay, we're not doing the spooky stuff. Even though it's still spooky, it's just, they're not leaning into it. It's more like, how do you overcome this loss and keeping that character alive and, integrating it with other people that had this fondness for him and that kind of fit the mold. Like, trying to think of her name. I think it's Nikki. Like, because she's had small interactions with him. And then like, um, the names are escaping me. Um,
Eric Rowan.
Eric Rowan being one of his best friends. And then I'm trying to think of the other two. The other two are driving me nuts because it's like, it's on my tip of my tongue and I know it. Like, but like you see that like, hey, they understand what this is. It's not just, hey, let's do the spooky gimmick. It's like, hey, we're honoring someone's legacy. We're keeping it alive. And they don't have to be on every night and doing all these different things, but when they're on, they're on.
Who most inspired your wrestling gear?
So I would say when I first started out, I wanted to be the cool, serious character, and then I was like, like I would say it had to be a combination of Kane and Big Boss Man. Because those two were the two that I really watched, and I was like, how do I combine these two? And I was like, okay, cool, let's merge them together. And then I was like, okay, I can't do like the flame look because that's Kane, and Big Boss Man never wore a mask. So I was like, what can I do? So I kind of like, well, since it's like riot gear, I could steal this from Call of Duty because at the time I was playing a game and I was like, I saw a character named Ghost, and I was like, okay, cool, we'll steal the skull thing from him. So that's where that inspiration came out. It was a combination of three different characters. Hey, let's roll it into one. And then they're like, "Oh, you need a name," and I was like, I couldn't think of one. I was going nuts, like, "Oh, this doesn't fit. This doesn't fit." And then my sister is a Harley Quinn fan, and she was like, "Well, there's a Batman character named Azrael, and he's this sense of righteousness." And I was like, "Okay, cool. We'll steal the name from there." I like that name.
Yes,
It had a ring to it, so I was like, "Okay, Azrael is going to be my new game."
I like it.
What's your opinion on okay, yeah, you're gonna have to pronounce this one again. The blue cane and the little cane multiverse that started happening directly after.
Oh, I loved it. It's kind of like the same thing as the Doink universe. I think it's just, it's such a, they were like, okay, how can we do something different? And, everyone gets inspired by these wrestlers and it's hard to get the okay from WWE. So obviously it was like, oh, well, I can't have Kane on the indies. Let's have Blue Kane, then Green Kane, and then Candy Kane, and then
That's the first
Gabe.
one after Blue King that popped in my head. I love Blue King because they went into the thought of like, okay, we can't have fire. Let's do like all that type of like reverse version. I'm like, I wish WWE let that thing exist in the Indies.
I think it's just WWE just doesn't want their intellectual property being used wrong or like in a way where it could look bad on them. So I understand that a little bit. At the same time, it's like we're just having fun. Wrestling's about having fun. And it got creative because they created this whole bunch of different characters. Even Game was hilarious to me. I was like, dang, this guy's too creative. Somebody hire this guy already. Like, he needs to be seen. His creativity needs to be out there.
It was an entry into the Kinoverse.
Uh,
I love that. That's oh man, that's amazing.
How have you enjoyed being in rodeo pro wrestling so far?
Oh, I love it. Especially it's Ray Rico, well, real name Gus is one of the owners, and then Showdown, I believe, is one of the owners. And they were like, hey, a lot happened. Let's go ahead and you guys need to wrestle, and we need to showcase you guys. And we're like, yeah, no, let's do it. Me and PJ started off, and then Sorrel came along, and he was like, hey, so we could do this whole faction thing. And when we got into rodeo, we noticed that there's not that many factions, there's not that many tag teams, and tag team wrestling is great. I like to think it's great because you're showcasing not only two people, you're showcasing four, and then you show that symmetry that okay, how do we make our match look different from their matches? And, a little peek behind the curtain, but because everyone I would like to say playfully, it's that rivalry that I could do better than you. My match was better than yours. But a lot of us at rodeo, we don't feel that oh, it's something serious. Like I'm trying to be better than everyone. It's more that playful, okay, follow that. Like you heard the crowd, they were cheering really loud. Let's see if you guys carry that energy. And so that playful competitiveness is probably the right word that is behind there because we all want to do our best, but we also want to enhance and okay, cool. Give them that little fire. Like, hey, you guys gotta bring it because if we brought it, you gotta bring it.
what move would you like to learn the most?
What move? I would definitely say I would love to do the Swanton Bomb. That is a move I would love to learn. Unfortunately, it's just I don't think anyone would want to take it because I've had people where I'm like, hey, let's do this move, or they're like, hey, let's do that move, and I'm like, no, let's try not to. This really got a 3 minute match. How are we gonna fit that in? And they're like, hey, let me jump off the top rope, land onto you, and then I was like, at that point, uh, we should go home. That's the end of the match because that's a really big move, and you want to put it at the beginning.
Mm,
Where do we go from there?
cool.
So I would say I would love to learn it. So I know I could probably do it. It's just, or would I put it in the match? And I would say that's probably the move that a lot of people are like, oh, okay, it's cool. We don't, I'd like to learn it one day.
What does the 846 on your gear stand for?
Oh, so the 848. Okay. So on my original vest, the number 848, it's supposed to, my grandfather was a truck driver and he was part of a union called Local 848, which is like the Teamsters. And I was like, I want to honor multiple people. And my grandfather was a big proponent of me getting into wrestling because, it would be on, my uncles would be watching and I'd be like, I want to watch too, but it was always late. And my grandfather would be like, no, you got to go to bed. And then he would turn on the TV and the room I was sleeping. He was like, okay, just put it on low so nobody hears you. So I would say that was my way of honoring my grandfather because he really got me into wrestling. Even though my family was kind of into it, he was the pushing me no, you could be a pro wrestler. You could do it. So I'd say he was my biggest cheerleader and my biggest inspiration. So this was my way of honoring him.
Do you think puppets have a place in wrestling?
Oh, of course. I think puppets do. I don't know if you ever get the chance. I know there was an episode of WWE where they had the Muppets come out. I would say that was for me that was awesome because they kind of the way that they played off of each other, especially Sheamus and I'm trying to think of the Muppet's name. Beaker. Like just that hilarious back and forth where here's a super serious wrestler and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'll see you at the family reunion."
Um,
It was I think wrestling does need that. That Muppets can play into it. I do believe that Muppets, you need that silliness because it can't be serious all the time. Um, to quote my one of my favorite movies growing up was The Crow, and that line, "It can't rain all the time," rings true with everything. It can't be serious all the time. You kind of need that funny. You need this wonderful blend of everything because yes, there is, there are going to be sad moments. There is the serious moments, but the fun, the happiness, the silliness, that's what brings everything together in this wonderful soup of wrestling.
It's kind of a good segue into my next two questions, which was is what do you think of Mr. Iguana and your opinion on Danhausen?
Oh, I love them. I know some people don't understand Mr. Iguana because he is a lucha character, and Mr. Iguana is, I would say, the best of it because it's something super silly that is available for all ages. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, only adults can appreciate it. It's like adults can appreciate it, kids can appreciate it. It's super silly, especially like when you see him take a big move and he's upside down, his legs are like that, and it's like, you're like, wow, who even thought of this? And then you realize, like, no, it's super silly, but there's logic behind it. And then moving into Danhausen, like, a lot of people don't know what is Danhausen. And I would like to say he's that, like, silly aspect of the supernatural where he's like, he's not really trying to, curse people. It's just, there happens to be a curse, or, you know, he's just using real logic. They're like, I want money. I want human monies. And it's like this super silly, I would say like 1950s horror character that's like you could see it. Like you could see it in wrestling. And like there would be that little goofy character in the background. Like it doesn't have to be, oh everyone like, oh hey, I want to be a world champion. And he's like, I want like his aspect of trying to get a belt is like, oh, give me that. Like he's not gonna wrestle. Like he doesn't have to wrestle. He could just steal the belt and be like, "This is mine now." And like I could see that like working.
What what was it like being on Voice of the Indies?
Oh, so Voice of the Indies, I loved it. Great interview, great um guy. I love talking to him. Very insightful in wrestling. Like I think his goal is to bring wrestling and like workout, everything, just like all his passions all into one. So talking to him was really cool. Like, because we met before, I would say through rodeo, first couple times we got to talk, and he was like, "Oh, hey, I thought you're cool that you're this big dude who could move and all that, and I would love to interview." And I was like, "Yeah, no, of course." He thought I was gonna say no, and a lot of people. I would say for anyone who wants to learn how to interview or do that, it's just sometimes you got to take that chance, just ask. Worst they could say is no. A lot of it could be scheduling conflicts. It could be just on, just depending on the person. But my big thing is that if you ask, cool, I'll make time. Like I would love to keep doing interviews and talking to people, whether it's about wrestling, entertainment, things like that. It does like right now, this is probably one of my favorite interviews. I love that, like talking to you guys. This is amazing because it's different. I love that.
Who's on your indie pro wrestling wrestler?
Favorite indie pro wrestler. It's hard because there's like a bunch, but um, I would say one of my favorites, even though I got to wrestle against her, is definitely Danica Bloodwin. She's I remember seeing her on Instagram and I was like, oh, this is a cool wrestler and all that. And then actually getting to meet her in real life, while I was training, and she was like really cool to talk to. And then we just became real good friends.
Oh. And what's your opinion on the two El Grande Americanos? I can't tell them apart sometimes.
I love it. I like that. It was just, I think it was just a gag, like just a funny gimmick, because I think they were building AAA. And a great pro wrestler is Chad Gable, extremely reliable, extremely funny, extremely athletic, and extremely strong. And they were like, okay, we gave it to him. And then I think he got injured, and they were like, how do we keep this alive? Oh, we'll just give it to someone else, which is very lucha actually. That is something that a lot of like a lot of people from American wrestling, when you look at like luchadors, they keep the same gimmick. Sometimes it gets passed down, very much like the doink. And so I was like, oh, that is amazing that they're keeping a tradition alive. And like they're like playing it off like, oh, there's two different Grande Americanos, even though the American audience saw like, hey, this is two different people. He's taller and leaner. He's not as muscular. And like I think that's the joke is that like, hey, we all know this isn't the same guy. And if you were to ask like fans of Lucha Libre, they know that like Blue Demon Jr., Blue Demon, any of the Mil Muertes is like all these characters, they got handed the gimmick usually through family. And so you know it's not the same person, but you know the character, and the character is what makes it happen. So it's like just keeping that character alive. So inadvertently, they did something very Lucha Libre, and I appreciated it.
Oh.
Who would be a dream match for you?
Okay, a dream match. So I'll probably do it like this. If I could, so I'll do three different ones for you. If I could have three different dream matches, if I could, I would love to have had a match against Dusty Rhodes. That would have been like, for me, would have been cool. Just a one-on-one match because I loved how Dusty worked and everything. If I could do someone current, or like I would say a legend that's still alive, and if we were to have a one-off match, that'd be cool. Um, I would have loved to actually, yeah, no, I would have loved to wrestle my trainer Rikishi. If I like, even if it was a one-off match, if I could have that match, even in him in his prime, I would have enjoyed having a match with them. If I had a dream match against a current wrestler, um, everyone's gonna say like Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. For me, it would definitely be Otis. I would love to see, a match with either Otis or Biggie. Like, I would love to have one of those matches because I know those guys, they're big, they could move, we could have fun. And that's one thing I love looking at is can you have fun with the match? Can it be a combination of silly, bring something for everyone? And I think Otis, and Biggie definitely brought that. If I could have that like current, but you know, if I was a star that wasn't alive today, definitely Dusty Rhodes. Um, and a star legend that is still alive, I would definitely say it'd have to be Rikishi.
Hmm. Do you like TikTok?
What do you think the best
Yeah.
answer?
I like TikTok. That is, I think a lot of people say that like, oh, it's brain rot, things like that. I was like, I think it's entertainment for the moment. And, it's great entertainment because sometimes there's funny skits, there's funny cartoons. And I'm like, oh, I could see this as regular. Why is there like more of these? I would say my favorite ones from TikTok has to be the natural habitat, the little skits they have. There's one where they had the little, I want to say it's a Nighthawk, where it's this big black bird. He's like, I had the nightmare too, Daddy. Like I love that. Like I saw that skit. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I think that was the one I got introduced to actually was the first time I saw on TikTok was that the natural habitats. And then seeing all the little funny ones from the raccoon one, the platypus. So I would say TikTok is great for that.
Oh,
And one last question before we get to our final ones. Hope that doesn't sound too rushed. Are you excited for WrestleMania weekend?
Heck yeah, I love that. Like, even though a lot of people argue that it's a little too expensive, I like to believe that WrestleMania weekend brings everybody together. Um, I'm going to be out. I'm going to try and make it out there to, even if I don't see WrestleMania, just to go interact with all the wrestling groups out there. See if I could meet people, mingle, see a lot of my friends that are from different parts of the world. Just I see it as like one big giant Comic-Con that just happens to be wrestling.
yeah.
Now on to now our final questions. Hopefully this doesn't sound I haven't sounded too rushed through on this stuff.
Oh no, no. You're doing wonderful.
Is there anything you'd want everyone to know about you that I didn't ask about?
Um, that's such a tricky question because it's like I don't want to give away too many of the secrets of the character, but at the same time, I like to, like I was telling Voice of the Indies, the thing about my character is you don't know what's going on in his head, and you don't know if he's evil, is he good, and the only one that knows is me. But like I like playing with that aspect of the character is that like I like to say he's a broken man who's trying to figure himself out. And there's this like, is he possessed aspect of him? Because I'm slowly leaning into that. There's the whole duality with him. And that like you could see him, there's something going on, but you don't know exactly what's going on.
Hmm.
And any advice for others just getting their start in wrestling?
Best advice that I would say with getting started with wrestling is something that one of the wrestlers told me. His name was, like I said, I brought him up earlier, to Leona, is don't focus on trying to get the character over, is learn your fundamentals. This character may not be your permanent character, you kind of move with it. Just go for the ride. Enjoy, have fun. You're going to meet a lot of people, and with these interactions, like, because you never know, like, this character, like I said, originally I thought Azrael was just going to be this one-time thing, and then it turned into a long-term gimmick, and then like, I changed characters, and I loved Azrael. Azrael was my, like I said, I thought it was going to be this forever, and they're like, oh no, we're changing it up. So be open to change because it's good for you. I would say it's good for you. That and this kind of goes for anyone, whether it's wrestling, life, it's just have fun, enjoy the moments, enjoy the ride. Because you never know. Um, and I keep saying that a lot, but like it is this wonderful thing. And that you get to meet all these different people, you get to travel. Is it expensive? Yeah, but don't be discouraged by that. Like I would say if you really love it, you're gonna go all in. And you have to kind of go all in, especially if you love it.
Where can we find you online?
Since she still can't get the links in the bio to work. Oh, come on, that's useful.
Well, if you guys are going to follow me online, I'm currently on Instagram at Azrael_8for8. Um, I would like to give a shout out to PJ Laurier. She's my tag partner, my leader. She's also on Instagram. I will also say Soro Satana is on Instagram. We're going to try and create our own team page so that way we could have Facebook, all these different things, so you can find us there. Um, I would love for you to interview Soro and PJ when you get the chance, all of you.
Yeah.
I'll
Yes,
talk to them about it.
definitely.
I'll definitely talk to them and see if they're down for the interview because this was fun. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
And thank you for not minding having to explain your social media links because I still cannot get links to work to put in the bio or the video. It was for some reason, so I always make sure to ask that. And I want to thank you once again for even being willing to let me, Smooch, and Elroy interview you.
No, of course, of
You're
course.
the
So I
best.
actually wanted to give you a gift. Later on, if you can, just send me your info. I would love to send you an autograph, some stickers, some merch, so that you guys could have.
So awesome.
We'll definitely get back to you when it comes to that stuff, and also when, main thing when the video's up.
Oh no,
Thank
of course, of
you.
course.
Well, and thank you one more time for being on the Miss Sam's Chit Chat.